Hey everybody, welcome back to V&J Reviews. This is a Dragon Ball Super chart episode. We're going to be going through a lot of charts as Super has now ended. We're glad to have you guys with us. This is Vin.
And this is Joe.
The first chart we're doing today, Battle of Gods arc. Okay, so the way we're going to go about doing this is we've figured that probably the best way is just to go arc by arc through Dragon Ball Super. If you don't have a sort of a system set up, it can get kind of crazy to go through all of the characters because there is a ton of them. So we're just going to go right through the arcs. We're starting off with Battle of Gods. This arc tends to be actually sort of a controversial arc when it comes to power scaling because a lot of people don't like Battle of Gods because it sort of messes things up. If you could get rid of Battle of Gods arc and just go from Frieza on, then it becomes a much easier. But Battle of Gods actually makes it difficult. Now, luckily for us, with our chart, it hasn't really messed things up. Actually, the scaling seems to work very well with our chart, which is one thing that we like. We actually tend to like Battle of Gods arc for our scaling system when most actually don't. It sort of messes things up. However, with that said, it's sort of a simple chart because there's not a lot of characters to look at with this one. You know, we're not scaling anybody who's not going to be on the chart itself. Remember, the chart that we use, we take Toriyama's old numbers. We have sort of created a two-chart system where we take his own linear chart and we sort of convert it over to a Dragon Ball Super chart. And we've said how we do that in other videos in the past. We're not going to go through the whole thing again. If you want to check it out, we'll leave some links below if you want to see that. However, we use a two-chart system, Toriyama's old numbers, and then the regular multipliers that we all know and love, along with a heavy focus on context within the arcs and the fighting themselves. Because a lot of this cannot just be done with multipliers. People would be lying if they told you they could just do it with multipliers because a lot of this is new. So there's no way to know how multipliers work with it. It's just impossible. So you have to use the context of the show, which we rely on heavily. Context is awesome because we could see how two people fight against each other and where their power lies generally, and then we can use some sort of precedences from the past and some multipliers to figure out what's going on with the two-chart system. And what we end up with is not power level numbers. We're not going to give you power level numbers, but we end up with a power scaling chart that's fairly accurate. And lastly, we do this for the anime only. This has nothing to do with the manga. The manga is completely different. We don't scale the movies. We're not looking at the movies. There's a lot of statements in the movies where Beerus used 70% of his power. He had to beat Goku. That has nothing to do with the anime. We only scale the anime and the anime only, which is actually a lot more difficult than scaling the manga because it's a little bit easier as far as the formulas are concerned, but we're not going to go back and forth. We're going to stick with the anime. I think most people watch the anime and want to see the anime scaled, and that's what we go for.
And the reason we're starting from the Battle of Gods is because we all know over time these characters evolve, get a little bit stronger, so keeps everything in line. As characters get stronger, we can sort of show that transition period as we go through each of arcs. So that's the reason why we're sort of going in this direction, because I think it'll be easier for everybody to follow.
Absolutely, and if you stick with it, you'll see those changes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the chart. Of course, we're going to start this chart off before Goku gets into his God form red, just to give some idea of where he stands. So in the red there, you can see the number 6. That is Toriyama's 6 number when he said, you know, Goku would be like a 6, Beerus a 10, and Whis a 15. Now, we use those numbers, but on the first scaling, and we're showing you where they stand on the converted scale. So you can see where base Goku stands as far as that is. He is a 0.1 on the chart, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's super weak. Just think about if he's a 0.1, what everybody else in the Dragon Ball universe must be.
Absolutely. You're thinking about, you know, Piccolo and Vegeta and it doesn't matter, Krillin, Tien,
and that's why they're not on the
Roshi.
chart right now. They're not there.
Everybody, you know, it's just amazing how low he is at this point on the chart, and that's just where he stands. He doesn't even hold any weight or water to this. So he's a 0.1 on the chart. Now, we're going to move forward. We use the regular multiplier. So base Goku to Super Saiyan Goku is a 50 times multiplier. So he's going to move up to a 5 on this chart. So you can see there, obviously, still not much when you're talking about the scaling of gods here. It's going to be very low. And then we're going to move forward, and we're going to go to Super Saiyan 2 Goku. And, of course, using the same scaling, we know to the base, it's a 100 times multiplier, and that would put him at a 10 on the chart. And then moving on to Super Saiyan 3, that is a 400 times multiplier to the base. That is going to put him at a 40 on the chart. And you can see where Goku and his Super Saiyan forms fall on this God chart. We'll call it a God chart because really it's charting God power levels, really is what it's doing. Now, this is where things get interesting because at this point, this is where Beerus obviously has his dream, like he's fighting this Saiyan God and he wants to find out what's going on. And then eventually Goku and the other Saiyans go through the ceremony and Goku enters in for the very first time ever this God form, which is like a God form red. And that immediately now brings us up to Toriyama's first number ever that he mentions. What would Goku be? He would be a 6. So on the converted scale, we have him at 216. That's the 6 on our scale. His power level isn't 216. It's like a lot of people think like, oh, his power level is 216. That's crazy. He used to be like 1,000 when he fought, Raditz or something like that,
Yeah.
That's not 216 has nothing to do with a power level.
That's just our converted chart, our cube converted chart.
It's our converted chart, and so it has nothing to do with that. It's just this is all scaling. So there you can see Goku in his God form red at a 6 on Toriyama's old chart. Now on our converted chart, that's where we have him. Now, this is where things get interesting.
Oh, yeah. This is the best part of it all.
Because now everyone wants to see, well, where does he stand against Beerus, right? Well, before we can show you where he stands against Beerus, something interesting happens that has, split people into multiple different ways of scaling it. What ends up happening is as Beerus is fighting Goku, Goku ends up falling out of God form red. This is in the anime only.
And the movie, but we're not doing the movie.
No movie on this one, and because the movie is different. So he falls out of God form red, and when he does that, he goes into his Super Saiyan form, Super Saiyan 1 form. And it's like, okay, now what's happening? All of a sudden, he's continuing to fight against Beerus in his Super Saiyan form. In our chart, let's go back right now to what Super Saiyan form is on the chart. It's a measly 5. It barely even registers on the God scale chart. So he went back to his Super Saiyan form here. How can he possibly be able to fight Beerus, yet he continues to be able to do that? Something's wrong here. The way that the anime explains it, through the words of Beerus, is that now the God form red, the power or the strength of God form red now burns within Goku, meaning that power is burning within him. That 6, that 216 on our converted scale, it's burning within Goku's Saiyan form now. It's almost as if that 216 power is actually burning within the Super Saiyan form, which only had a 5 before. This is where people start to split.
Yeah, I actually split it down into pretty much 3 camps here that people go with. The first camp is that no, Goku actually didn't really absorb the power after this whole battle was done. It was just during this battle that he was actually absorbing it in there and was able to use it. After this, he actually just goes back down to his regular base power, and then you just stack the multipliers up as he transforms. Which is actually an interesting idea because in the end, this is actually the manga idea, I feel. Because in the manga, this is how it works. He actually never faced Beerus in Super Saiyan form and everything. So if you're going with the manga, actually this would make sense. And maybe one day we're going to actually do that. We actually have a friend, Anti-Meta Man. He actually has made a chart this way. And maybe one day we'll show that off. That'll be pretty cool.
Now, in the anime, though, it generally for us, it doesn't work. Not only the multipliers don't work, the context doesn't work, but in addition, you have times when even the commentator states he's gone beyond the power of a god.
Correct.
Okay, so if he didn't actually go beyond the power of a god and he's just going back to his regular form, then how did he go beyond the power of a god? And then there's also some other issues too, but I don't want to get too far into it.
So now we go into the second camp, and that's people believing he only absorbed partially the amount of energy. So now he's Super Saiyan form is actually the equivalent to Super Saiyan God form. So his base is still lower, but if he goes Super Saiyan, now he's actually as powerful as a god because he only absorbed some of the God Ki, not all of it. Now, we do have some issues with that. Vin has a big issue with it.
Well, here's the thing. If in his Super Saiyan form, he's now as powerful as a god, that means that his base form would be 50 times weaker. The biggest problem that occurs with this, when people say, well, maybe he just became as powerful as God form red in his Super Saiyan form, but his base form isn't that powerful, it's far less powerful, 50 times weaker in fact. Goku goes back into his base form, and he ends up nullifying the single largest attack out of the entire battle between him and Beerus. Essentially, the attack was the power that Goku was able to put forth and the power that Beerus put forth in his orb. But then it kind of came together, and Beerus increased the power of it, the size, the strength of it 2 times. Now, a lot of people have taken this and said, well, maybe he didn't make it stronger. Maybe he made it weaker. But the only reason they're saying that is because they're trying to sort of say, I don't want to believe that it got stronger because I want to believe my theory that he's 50 times weaker. So I'm going to believe that the 2 powers that Goku shot and Beerus shot combined, Beerus made it bigger 2 times, yet he didn't actually make it bigger. He made it weaker because I want to support my theory. We don't do that here. That is poor contextual evidence. That is headcanon gone amok. Some headcanon is good. Some headcanon is based on reality and context. Some is not. That is headcanon that says, I don't care what's happening. I'm just going to imagine that it's weaker because I want base Goku to be weaker because it fits with my theory. What does base Goku do then with this most largest of attacks that has now happened in the fight? He nullifies it. So how in the world could base Goku, if he's 50 times weaker than God form, nullify what is the strongest attack out of the entire battle? If in fact he is 50 times weaker than God. It doesn't make any sense. So this theory doesn't hold any water when it comes to the anime.
Now we go into the third camp, which is where we are actually, is that Goku absorbed all the God Ki into his base, and now his base is equal to God form red, or stronger, because he's still getting stronger actually during the fight. We're even told that. Now, we do actually have to divide this up into 2 different sections, because there's people who still think Goku gets his multipliers on top of this. So pretty much my idea of this is, let's say the very next day he decided to face Beerus. If he went Super Saiyan 2, and then Super Saiyan 3 against Beerus the next day, he would be 400 times stronger than when he was pretty much facing Beerus almost at the time, which to me is a ridiculous idea that now he can face Beerus the very next day that much stronger because he has it all absorbed in there. So we don't go that way. We actually have made our own separate chart, our own separate way, our own separate idea on this that we feel that makes the most contextual sense according to the anime, and that is that the powers actually get added and not multiplied to his base form, and we're going to show that.
Keep in mind, there is no precedent for this. There's nothing in the past in the anime that has ever dealt with God form. So to assume that, no, they must automatically be multipliers because things in the past have been multipliers, you cannot make that assumption. That's a fallacy to make the assumption. There's zero precedent for this. There is no actual manga related multiplier for this. There's nothing in the past. This is the first time we're approaching God ever. So how it works with his Saiyan forms is absolutely unknowable and unknown up until this point. So you have to be able to deal with it correctly. And obviously, as Joe is saying, 2 camps have dealt with it differently. One gives the multiplier, and the other camp does not give the multiplier. They give the addition on it.
And I know people will say, so we're doing the same thing. We're just coming up with our own headcanon. There's no way for us to actually know. And that is sort of true if you want to say that, but we are trying to follow the context of the anime as closely as possible in what they're saying. So that's the reason why we came up with what we are about to do next on our chart.
Right, and one of the things that Joe stated about the multiplier is very true. If base Goku is now as powerful as God Form Red, that means he could immediately go into the multiplier and be 50 times stronger than he was merely seconds ago. Or he can go into Super Saiyan 2 and be 100 times stronger than he was seconds ago. Or if he can go into Super Saiyan 3 somehow, he could be 400 times stronger than he was merely seconds ago. That is absolutely ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. And like Joe used the example, if he did it the next day, you could use the example if he did it the next moment after he did it. Now, one of the things that Beerus says is interesting. He says that the God Form Red, the power or the strength of God Form Red, burns within you. It burns. It's almost like that power is burning within him. So he's in his Saiyan form, but that power, that 6 on Toriyama's chart, that 216 on our chart, is burning within his base form. So what does that mean his base form is at right now? So we're going to go ahead and continue our chart here. Take a look at where we have his base form at. We have him at a 6.1 or a 227. Now, some people may say, well, wait a second, base Goku is only a 0.1, and God Form Red is a 216. If you're going with adding, why isn't he just 216.1? What's happening over the battle itself is Goku is getting stronger. It's stated a number of times that he's getting stronger. Goku is a Saiyan and he gets stronger. And one of the problems with scaling is scales are generally static, meaning they don't change. It's just one number. The problem is Goku's power actually changes, especially over intense fights. It changes dramatically. So Goku's base power is actually now stronger, and we have to indicate that somehow. So right on our chart, you're actually seeing that our chart is not remaining static. It is changing over the course of the battle. So now the God Form Red burns within Goku's base power, and now you have Goku's base actually superseding the original God Form power, which fits with the narrator's description and other descriptions that are shown in the show, but we don't give a multiplier later on. You'll see this. So his base form now with God Form Red in it is 227 or 6.1. This is the power level that he's going to be at, that he's going to nullify Beerus' attack. Essentially, he's going to give up all of his energy in order to do this. So this is where Goku stands in base form. Again, we have taken the camp that Goku adds the power, God Form Red, and that Goku is getting stronger as the battle goes on. Now, that moves us on to Super Saiyan 1, regular Super Saiyan. What happens here? He moves from 227 to 232 on our chart. He goes up 5 points. Why? Because he gets the original multiplier. Now, this is where the confusion starts. A lot of people say, wait a second, he should get 50 times stronger. He does get 50 times stronger. His Saiyan power gets 50 times stronger. The God Form Red power still burns within him. So we are still giving him the multiplier just on his mortal Saiyan power, not the God power. He will later be able to achieve the multiplier for the God Form power, but that's later on when he goes blue. That's why you see a change in his aura and in his color, because now he's figured out how to combine Saiyan and God and achieve that multiplier.
And then we're going to actually continue, even though he doesn't go Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan 3 in this arc, we're going to put them here on the list so you can see them. As he goes to Super Saiyan 2, he will go to a 237, which is 100 times multiplier to his base mortal, which gives him 10 plus. So that's why it's 10 more than Goku with his current base at 227. And then once again, we go up to Super Saiyan 3, which is going 400 times, which is a 40 plus to the base here. So that's why he's at 267. Now we're going into something that is going to be a little bit more harder to explain because we're not even too sure about it, right, Vin, on this next part?
This is really a tough one. This is not, and there's no one that could really fully explain this. And I want to keep in mind, if anyone disagrees with any of this, that's fine. We have no problem with it. We feel like the context of the show really backs this chart up very well. We can explain nearly everything that happens in the show, nearly every battle or every move or every attack with this chart as far as the scaling is concerned. Now, other people have worked with other charts and stuff, and that's fine. If they're finding out that it's working, that's good for them. But with this scaling chart, we're finding that it works really well. So again, we go with the God Form Reds being added, and we're giving the multiplier only to his mortal Saiyan energy, not the God energy. So here's the problem. When Goku now goes and he has his God form red absorb into his body, the flame of the power of God form red is within him. What happens now if he goes red again in the anime? What if he went red again? Is he going to be weaker than his base and his Saiyan forms? Obviously, that doesn't make any sense. Then what is the multiplier then if he goes red again? Hopefully you guys are sticking with me on what I'm saying here. He absorbed red form into his body now, but what if he just goes red form again? So here's the thing. We're going to go ahead and pan over right now and show you where we stand in the red form. So go ahead and see it there. And you can see we believe it is stronger than Super Saiyan 3, even with the God form red burning within him. And this is a tough one because, again, there's no precedent on this. There's no multiplier for this. There's no anything in the manga. There's nothing that has ever been in the Daizenshu. There's nothing that's ever been listed anywhere to indicate what should happen in this situation.
And in the context of the anime, all the things that we've seen with it so far, it doesn't really help us out at all with trying to figure out exactly how strong it is. We just know it is stronger based off of some stuff that happens with it, but we don't know how much.
Now, yes, this is headcanon, right? But there's no other way to go about it. You can't use anything else except for headcanon when it comes to the anime and the fact that he absorbed God form red and he can turn God form red again. What we do know, though, is that his God form red is stronger than the Super Saiyan 3 form that has God form in it, but we also know that it's weaker than the blue form. So we already know where blue form fits. We're not putting that into this chart because that's in a later arc. So we know where blue form is, we know where Super Saiyan 3 form is, and then we can use a little bit of the context of fighting that we see later on to try and indicate where we believe this would be. This is not perfect, but there is really absolutely no other way to do it because there is no multiplier for this. There's no precedent. There is nothing. You only have to be able to use context. Now, this brings me to headcanon. A lot of people just throw out headcanon like, oh, that's just headcanon. That's just headcanon. The problem with saying the word headcanon is there's different types of headcanon. There's some headcanon that's based in no reality, meaning I could just be like, oh, Piccolo's stronger than Goku. Okay, well, that's headcanon. Technically, yeah, it's some of the most ridiculous, stupid headcanon that you could say, but technically it has no basis in reality. There's no multipliers. There's nothing to indicate that. But you can also have headcanon that's firmly founded in contextual evidence and based on scaling differences that you see between characters. That kind of headcanon, if you can explain it using fights, battles, attacks, different forms, and scaling, that headcanon has strength to it. And that's the type of headcanon that we have to use in this situation. We know it's stronger than Super Saiyan 3 with the God form red burning within him. We know it's weaker than God form blue. That gives us a range of where it can go. It can't go weaker. It can't go stronger. And so we feel comfortable placing it here based off of some other contextual battles that we've seen later on. And this is our argument for it. You know, we really don't have anything else to say about it. There is no multipliers. There's no precedent. There's nothing else you could do. Okay? So up until this point, this is where the chart stands with Goku in all of his forms before he goes God form red, after he goes God form red, and after he absorbs God form red into his being. That brings us now to Beerus and Whis. So we're going to go ahead and scale back now and show you where Beerus stands on the Battle of Gods power chart. So you can see him here.
So placing Beerus and Whis is actually not too difficult for us on this chart because we've followed Toriyama's numbers where Goku was a 6, Beerus is a 10, and Whis is a 15. So we're able to place them here at 10 and 15. But if you do notice with Beerus, we sort of have a little bit of an extra bar there trying to indicate Ultra Instinct because based off of context that we know in the future arcs, we do know that Beerus has some type of understanding of Ultra Instinct, and that will make him more powerful than him just going into his regular power, which is up to a 10. So that's why we're making this bar right here.
Right. So saying basically Beerus is his self in his own power is a 10. That's as powerful as he gets, according to Toriyama's old numbers. Now, when he goes Ultra Instinct, this is a new state of being for him. One that he has not yet mastered, at least we don't know that he's mastered it, but one that he can enter. So the question becomes, how much more powerful does he become when he goes in Ultra Instinct? The answer is Nobody knows. Nobody knows how much more powerful Beerus gets when he does this. We don't even know. So we give a chart there. Now, he could be anywhere within this power level, meaning he does shoot up very, very high here in power. You can see where he stands against Whis as well. Okay, so again, the scale here is not linear. So it doesn't mean that Beerus is almost 2/3 as strong as Whis is here. This is a converted scale. In fact, if you look at Goku using our scale with the converted chart, Beerus is actually, when you just go to the 10 mark on this, he's 130 times stronger than base Goku after he absorbs God Form Red. So 130 times stronger than him. Remember, this is based on the anime only, not the movies, not the manga, okay? So don't just look at the chart and go, oh, he's like, let me measure it out. He's like 5 times stronger or something like that. That doesn't make any sense. You're right. It doesn't make any sense. But that would be on a linear chart, which this is not. So where does Ultra Instinct Beerus fit? Somewhere within that bar there. I mean, we don't know exactly where. We've never seen him fight in it. We have zero context with it. There is no numbers. There is no multipliers for it. So we can't actually know, but we can infer that he is going to get quite a bit stronger, significantly so. And so that's going to move him up quite a lot. He's going to be able to one-shot nearly everybody. As the chart continues on and we go through the later arcs, you're going to see that where Beerus stands in front of them and they're basically stand no shot against him. So we just wanted to make sure we put that bar on there just to indicate that this is something that actually is that can happen, that Beerus can go into.
And also, I just want to go into, like, somebody might think that, wow, 130 times stronger is Beerus. How is he even fighting Goku? And actually, I mean, he is playing around with him if you watch in the anime. I mean, he doesn't look like he's trying. He doesn't even have a scratch really on him at the end. But if you look at our scale versus like somebody who does like the stacking of all the power levels, that difference is way higher on their scale than ours. Just to give you an example, let's just say that Goku goes Super Saiyan, which is a 50 times multiplier. And then he goes Super Saiyan 2, which is 50 times 2, which is 100. Then he goes Super Saiyan 3, which is 100 times 4, which is 400. And then we get to Super Saiyan God. Now, people give Super Saiyan God a 200 times multiplier because they try to figure it out with Vegito from the Buu Saga. So if you do what they think with a 400 times 200, we're going to go up to an 80,000 times multiplier. Then we'll continue on to Super Saiyan Blue. Now, Blue will also give you a few different multiplications, depending if you go with the manga or the anime. For the manga, it's 10 times for a lot of people. For the anime, a lot of people do 50. So we're going to do 50 times. So it's 80,000 times 50. That brings us up to 4 million times multiplier. But then we have to go further because Goku goes Super Saiyan times 20, so they have to stack that on top as well. So now we have 4 million times 20, which brings us to an 80 million times multiplier for Goku at that point. Now, if you try to convert that to where he was in red, it's about 1,000 times difference. We're saying 130, but some of these scalars, 1,000 times difference between Goku and Beerus at this point. That's what they're trying to say. And to us, that just seems ridiculous. And that's if you're going with the starting from the base form. It gets worse if you're saying that he absorbed some of the power into his base, like we are saying, or absorbed all of it. That number even goes up higher. So that could even be worse than what I'm even saying with some of these people's scales.
Yeah, and this is why some people really don't like Battle of Gods arc, because it makes all of their multipliers and stacking not work well, because now you have to be able to tell me why in the world is Beerus more than 1,000 times. It would actually be many times more than 1,000 times.
Yeah,
1,000 times is to blue Kaioken times 20.
20, and people still don't think it can beat Beerus.
Oh, it can't be Beerus. And Beerus is stronger than blue Kaioken times 20. So now you have to explain to me, using that type of stacking and multiplying, how in the world is Beerus many thousands of times stronger than God Form Red, and yet they're actually kind of sparring back and forth with each other. The only thing that somebody could say about that is that he is so suppressing himself that that's what he's doing. But honestly, if Beerus is many thousands of times stronger, it just doesn't even make sense for him to even take on that fight. And that's what Beerus is looking for. Beerus is looking for somebody that can challenge him again. He wants a challenge. Somebody who's many thousands of times weaker than him is zero to him. It's like an ant is to you. Like if an ant got 1,000 times stronger, maybe it could kick your butt or be close to it. But many thousands of times weaker than you looking at an ant, you don't think to yourself, okay, let me go find this ant and let me fight it. Beerus is not going to do that with Goku. Now, on our chart, Goku is 130 times weaker, meaning Beerus is 130 times stronger. Yes, that is still a lot. He's still a lot more powerful. But in the end of the day, what did Beerus end up finding out? Well, Beerus ended up finding out that Goku wasn't much of a challenge for him. Even though they were able to spar, they were able to go back and forth. Beerus had a suppressed state, was still kind of impressed with Goku and stuff like that, but not thousands of times stronger. He wouldn't be that impressed with him. So the stacking and multiplying one, they ultimately, a lot of people hate Battle of Gods arc because it takes the stacking and multiplying that people do, and it sort of throws it out of the water. A lot of people want to get rid of Battle of Gods arc so that they don't have to deal with that. For us, though, thankfully, we don't have to do that. For our chart, it works out well enough that we say, hey, it's believable that Beerus is 130 times more powerful than Goku, and it's believable to see how amazingly he beat him, but how they also did actually have some times where they were kind of going back and forth just a little bit.
And I think that's why people like our chart, because it gives a different sense in there. It's something that nobody else does, and I think it's more believable than most other people out there. I really do.
I mean, it fits with the scaling aspect of it. So, again, and if anyone wants to disagree with the chart, that's fine. There's no problem. One of the things that I would love to see, though, rather than just disagreeing with how we're doing multipliers or converting the charts or something like that, show an actual instance in the anime itself where the scaling of this is so far off, where it just doesn't work well. Yes, you might be able to say, well, I think he's just a little bit more powerful or a little bit more weaker here. That's fine. We have no problem with that. You know, things can move up and down, and Saiyans especially get stronger as things go on. But show in the context of the anime where any of this is just so dramatically off. Like, look at what Goku did here. See, your scale doesn't make any sense. Nobody does that. Nobody can do that because that up until this point doesn't actually really exist up until this point. In fact, most people won't even put forth their own scaling because they know once they do, it can be easily taken apart by the context of the show, where our chart has really stood the test of time with the context of the show and the different changes that have occurred. And talk about Dragon Ball Super, some of the craziest things happen in Dragon Ball Super. And to be able to put a converted chart out there that stands the test of time as the series goes on with the anime says something about it. And in the context, the hard context of the show, our chart stands up extremely well. I'll be honest, there's nothing that's perfect out there. Not even our chart is perfect because I don't think they're doing formulas for the anime, you know. They're just throwing things out there. But our scaling, our multipliers, our chart, the context of it works out really well. And so this is where we see everyone in Battle of Gods arc. Specifically, obviously, Goku, all of his transformations, Beerus, and Whis, using the whole system that we created here. So take a look at this. This is a good way to scale all of these characters. Remember, this is not a linear scale. This is cubed scale, actually. So that's, Goku is Beerus is 130 times more powerful at a 10 than Goku. If he decided to go Ultra Instinct, that actually moves up even more. But again, we haven't seen him in that context yet, so we can't actually indicate exactly what that number is.
So, and next we're going to obviously go on to the Frieza resurrection arc, and now we're going to actually scale some new people. We're actually going to be putting officially, I think, Vegeta on there in blue and Golden Frieza. So I know a lot of people are going to be excited to finally see those new characters put on there. I know I can't wait to put them on there finally.
And so we'll probably be coming out with that chart next week. So if you want to stick with us and see how this chart evolves over time, we'll go ahead and do that. And then maybe when we're done with everything, maybe we'll make one video where we take all of these charts and we just throw them all together and we do like a nice little
montage?
Yeah, like a music, like just background music, and we just scale through everything. We'll just stick everyone right on there. I don't know how we're gonna do it because there's a lot of characters to stick on one screen image, but you know what? If there's a will, there's a way, and maybe we can do it, and it'll be hopefully the most complete and scalably accurate, contextually accurate chart that we can put together, or for you guys. So stick with us on this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'd love to see your thoughts below. We always enjoy reading your comments. If you have not subscribed to the video, go ahead and subscribe, because we got a ton more chart videos coming out. Plus, we got some cool other things coming out too. We're going to do a lot of top 5s, top 10s. We're going to look back at Super and look at some of the best episodes, best fights, new characters, things that really have changed up Dragon Ball as a universe altogether. So you're going to want to stick with us for that as well. We hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always, this is Vin.
And this is Joe.
We'll, of course, check you guys out next time.